Now, we're watching one of the most intense, high-stakes geopolitical standoffs of our time unfold in real time. We are over 60 days into a deeply tense military confrontation, and the US and Iran are standing right at a perilous crossroads. So today, we're going to break down exactly where this conflict stands, the strategies playing out behind closed doors, and where the whole thing might be heading next.
Analysts are starting to call this exactly what it feels like, a new Cold War. And honestly, the label fits perfectly. The global economy is essentially being held hostage by all this looming uncertainty. And we're kind of trapped. We don't have total peace, but we don't have all-out war either. It's this deeply frozen, extremely tense state. Both sides have taken some serious hits, but neither has actually achieved their main goals. So we're left staring at a board where every single diplomatic and military move is meticulously calculated.
To really wrap our heads around this standoff, we're going to map it out across 4 possible scenarios: the negotiation path, the threat of returning to war, the economic blockade, and finally, the geopolitical arm wrestling match going on right now.
Let's dive right into part 1, the negotiation path.
So Pakistan has been working behind the scenes, desperately trying to play mediator and keep channels open. But wow, when you look at the priorities here, the gap is massive. It's like they're trying to solve 2 totally different puzzles. The US, they are squarely focused on resolving the nuclear dispute. That's their core agenda. But Iran has completely shifted its immediate focus to lifting the suffocating naval blockade on its ports, essentially pushing the nuclear talks to the back burner. It's almost impossible to strike a deal when both sides won't even agree on what they're negotiating.
Actually, to make things even more complicated, we have to look at the internal politics. Because this isn't just a simple 2-player game. Right now, the supreme leader is noticeably absent from the day-to-day management of this crisis. And that vacuum, it's allowing hardliners inside Iran to push back fiercely against the more moderate negotiators. For instance, we're seeing Parliament Speaker Kalibaf, who was kind of steering the compromises, being forced to back down. In his place, hardliners like Saeed Jalili are really gaining influence, making Iran's stance significantly more rigid.
Oh, and we definitely can't forget the neighbors. Regional powers are actively resisting any sort of quick, piecemeal fix. They're terrified that a limited deal between the US and Iran is going to completely ignore their own security. So, they're stepping in and demanding sweeping, comprehensive guarantees. They don't just want the nuclear issue handled, they want strict limits on Iranian missile programs and its expansion in the region. What looks like a one-on-one negotiation is actually this massive, multi-party diplomatic minefield.
Which brings us to the second and arguably most terrifying scenario, a return to war.
If diplomacy completely fails, well, both sides have already regrouped for a fight. Just let this number sink in for a second. 77,000. That's the estimated number of US Marines currently sitting in the region under central command, fully prepped for a potential military confrontation. We literally haven't seen a mobilization of this scale in the region in years. It shows you exactly how seriously they're taking the threat of a hot war.
And the hardware backing up those troops, it is absolutely staggering. We're talking 3 Nimitz-class aircraft carriers deployed all at once, plus 15 warships, over 200 warplanes, and specialized amphibious assault ships like the USS Boxer and USS Tripoli, loaded to the brim with troops. Meanwhile, Iran hasn't just been sitting around during the ceasefire. They've been busy unearthing military assets and reviving their missile capabilities. The stage is entirely set for conflict.
Now, if someone actually lights this powder keg, the escalation would likely be rapid and catastrophic. It would probably kick off with wide air raids, much like we saw in the first wave. But from there, it could easily jump to targeting critical energy and civilian infrastructure, bridges, power grids, you name it. The playbook then moves into targeted assassinations of key political figures. And in the absolute most extreme scenario, we could even see targeted ground landings right inside Iranian territory.
But here's the crazy part. Despite all these massive preparations, neither side truly wants to pull the trigger. They're both hesitating. For the US, there's intense domestic pressure. They've got midterm elections creeping up, where an unpopular war would just be devastating. Not to mention, they are bumping right up against that strict 60-day congressional limit under the War Powers Act. And Iran, well, they know that a hot war, especially one hitting their energy sector, would almost certainly trigger total economic collapse. They are both just staring into the abyss, holding their fire out of pure self-preservation.
So, instead of bombs, we get our third scenario, the economic blockade. Rather than a shooting war, the US decided to weaponize the economy by slamming down a crushing naval blockade on April 13, 2026.
Look at this incredibly dramatic 70% drop in Iranian oil exports. Before the blockade, they were comfortably exporting around 2.1 million barrels. Afterward, that plummeted to just about 567,000. By cutting off those maritime shipping routes, the blockade is literally choking off the lifeblood of Iran's entire economy.
And the human cost here is just devastating. Because of this economic strangulation, food inflation in Iran has skyrocketed to nearly 96%. 96%. Imagine trying to afford basic groceries when prices double almost overnight. Everyday survival is becoming a monumental struggle for regular civilians, which, honestly, is exactly the kind of intense internal pressure this blockade was designed to create.
But Iran isn't just taking this lying down. They are desperately scrambling to mitigate the damage. With their sea routes totally halted, their domestic oil storage is filling dangerously close to its absolute limit, sitting somewhere between 86 and 95 million barrels. To relieve that pressure, Tehran is pivoting hard. They're trying to move oil overland via rail straight to China. Plus, they've just opened 6 brand new border ports with Pakistan to let thousands of cargo containers cross by land every day, completely bypassing that naval chokehold.
All of this sets up our final point, Section 4, the arm wrestling match.
When you look at all this data together, it culminates in this intensely high-stakes battle of attrition. Analysts are actually using the Arabic phrase for an arm wrestling match to describe it. It's the perfect metaphor. 2 massive forces locked together, enduring agonizing strain, just waiting to see whose strength breaks first under the pressure. The U.S. is betting that extreme economic pain will force Iran back to the negotiating table on American terms. Meanwhile, hardliners in Iran are betting they can endure this blockade just long enough for American political resolve to completely crack.
So ultimately, it comes down to a battle of 2 very real ticking clocks. On the U.S. side, the clock is all about that shrinking political window. As those midterms get closer, the political capital needed to keep up this aggressive blockade might just evaporate. On the other side, the Iranian clock is dictated by rapidly crashing economic indicators and runaway inflation that could easily spark massive internal unrest. With the entire global economy nervously watching from the sidelines, knowing full well that just one misstep could send global energy markets completely spiraling out of control, this whole standoff is perfectly balanced right on a knife's edge. Both sides are hurting, both sides are running out of time. So as we watch this historic event unfold, the crucial question you have to ask yourself is, who's going to blink first? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep diving into the data as this new Cold War develops, and stay curious.